Good evening. Tonight we are beginning the second half of chapter 14. Chapter 14 concludes one set of the theme of Tanya that began in the first chapter with defining the three categories of Tzaddik, Beinoni, and Rasha. And it started with a few questions concerning the oath, the vow that each neshama is made, in heaven they make with each neshama vow before it comes down to this world to live their life in this world. So each neshama makes a vow, Tihi tzaddik v'al ti rasha. They have to make a commitment and swear to be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha. Now, this vow is exact, and it is made in the exact wording that the Gemara says, and it's double-sided. On one hand, it says, swear that you will be a tzaddik and not be a rasha. And that's why we went into the definition of what is a tzaddik and what is a rasha. That's the first line of Tanya, this Gemara. Tanya b'seif per gimel l'nidem mashbi'im ma'isitei tzaddik v'al ti rasha. First line of Tanya. So one of the questions that is obvious is, why do you have to say the oath, the text of the oath? The wording is, be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha. It would seem superfluous to say, don't be a rasha. If you're swearing to be a tzaddik, then you're saying you're going to do the right thing all of the time and be the best person possible. So then why do you have to be told, and don't be a rasha, don't be a sinner? Swear to be a tzaddik and that's it. That's it, and don't be a sinner. It's just the same thing, the opposite. So over here, at the beginning of what we're going to be studying today, he's going to answer that question. He's going to answer that question by saying that there's really two goals and two oaths that are taking places. One is to be a tzaddik. The other one is not to be a rasha, and it's not necessarily the same. And this is based on what was already discussed at length in the chapters of Tanya until here, that a tzaddik is a person that's perfect in and out. And that a tzaddik, and not only does he do always what is right, but a tzaddik is also someone who inside of him has no desire to do wrong. He basically destroyed his Yetzer Hara. So he doesn't have bodily impulses. He worked on himself to the degree that he cleansed himself inside and outside. That makes him a tzaddik. And a tzaddik gomer is a tzaddik to such a degree that he detests evil, and he even detests excessive physicality and the pursuit of physical pleasures. He is a man of God. He is a holy man. That's a tzaddik. And he explained in the previous chapters that almost all of us will never become a tzaddik, and it's not even the mission of our life to be a tzaddik to that degree. And since it's almost impossible to attain, that's why they make us take an oath and don't be a rasha. A rasha is someone, in the inside he didn't change, but practically he does what's right. Practically he does all the mitzvahs, he doesn't sin, even though inside of him there are the drives and the impulses for the low and perhaps even the vulgar, because his inner nature has never changed. So therefore, when he says tzaddik, it's one goal or one standard, and he has to make us swear to the second standard that at least you won't be a rasha, because now that we have a new definition of tzaddik and a new definition of rasha, it is clear to us that the opposite of tzaddik is not necessarily a rasha. Well, better said, that the other standard, if you're not a tzaddik, doesn't automatically make you a rasha. And not being a rasha does not make you necessarily a tzaddik. Because there are different standards and levels. And that in the middle is actually a beinoni. So now we're going to read inside. It's the second paragraph. It's the second paragraph in the Hebrew. It's the second paragraph of chapter 14. B'zeh yuvan, and with what was explained before, that it's not within the reach of everybody to be a tzaddik. B'zeh yuvan, with this will be understood. Kayfa lashon hashvuah, to hate tzaddik v'al teirash. It'll be understood why it is said twice, be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha. The l'chura tamua, it would seem to be, it seems to be difficult to understand. It makes us wonder. Once we make him swear to be a tzaddik, so therefore his standard that he's going for is to be completely righteous. Why do we have to say don't be a rasha? And the answer is understood by what we explained before, that not being a rasha doesn't necessarily make you a tzaddik. Not being a rasha is doing what's right practically, even though inside of you there may be a volcano of desires and lusts and all other negativity. So therefore, you're not a rasha, but you're very far from a tzaddik. And therefore, there's the other side, there's another oath to be a tzaddik. And like he's going to explain before, there should be a certain reaching or a striving for being a tzaddik, even though that's not necessarily your life's mission. I will soon explain that. But meanwhile, we resolve the question in the text. When we learn Gemara, those who go to Gemara class, we know every line of Gemara, the wording of our sages was chosen. And now he explained the two sides of this oath, or the two levels of this oath that we make before we are born. And as he explains, Elam mishum shein kol adam zechli is tzaddik. The reason why we have to make both oaths, it's one oath that really has two stages and two steps to it, is because not everyone is going to merit to be a tzaddik. Vein la'adam mishpat ha'bchira b'zeh kol kach, and we don't even have free choice. Most of us don't really have free choice to become a tzaddik. It's not necessarily in our hands to be able to rid ourselves completely from the desire for evil. L'sanig al Hashem be'emes. First of all, to delight in godliness, to truthfully delight in godliness. And we explained that a true tzaddik, his pleasure, his thrill is in godliness. So not everyone will attain that, or necessarily can attain it, even if he tried to really, truthfully have what his delight is in godliness. And also, and he should detest evil, truthfully detest evil. So the two sides of the tzaddik is, he has a passion and a pleasure in godliness, and he detests evil, sin. So these are the two sides of a tzaddik. And most people, they don't stand a chance to reach that level. And therefore they make him take the other step of the vow, at least don't be a rasha. So inside you're not going to change, neither loving God truthfully, and neither detesting evil truthfully, but practically stay away from sin. Even if in the inside you're not going to have that spirit in you, the true spirituality of a tzaddik in you. At least don't be a Rasha. The free choice. The choices that we have is to do what's right, even though it's not to change your inner self. So in that has the mishpat habchira v'reshus nesuna l'chal adam, and over here every man has the capability and he has the choice limshel baruch davasei shebelibay, to rule over the lust that is in his heart, v'lich b'shitzrei, and to conquer his inclination, his evil inclination. Control oneself. Self-control is in the hands of everyone. In the hands of everyone is self-control. And like he said in the Tanya when he was speaking about the Beinoni, that's the Beinoni personality. Inside of him, he may have a trash can, but he is in control not to follow the trashiness that he may have in his heart. And he has that choice to control himself, whether it is to keep on doing what's right, or it is to stay away from evil, from sin. So whether it's to stay away from evil or to do good, he's in complete control. Then he says a sentence over here, as if in a parenthesis. And it's interesting how the Alter Rebbe emphasizes this. We know there's 613 mitzvahs. 365 is prohibitions, sins. 248 mitzvahs. So there's a big list of do's, and there's even a bigger list of don'ts. And he says that the Beinoni personality, he stays away from what's forbidden, and he does what's right, the whole list. But the Alter Rebbe chooses one mitzvah to emphasize overall. And he says, what is the paradigm, the ultimate of doing good? Studying Torah. Studying Torah. Vein toiv el Torah. What does it mean, good? So our sages say, what is good? Torah. Because our sages of the Mishnah and the Gemara said that weighing in against all the mitzvahs is the study of Torah. So even though right now it doesn't directly have to do with the discussion at hand, because over here we're discussing, what is the oath that the average person has to work on and to do what's right, and it means every mitzvah to say. It's to make kiddush on Friday night. It's to the women have to light candles. It's to keep the Shabbos. It's to eat matzah. It's to put on tefillin. All the positive mitzvahs. But the Alter Rebbe, we find this repeatedly in Tanya, that he always emphasizes the importance of Torah study. That the epitome of a positive mitzvah is to study Torah. And I believe that the reason is because through Torah study, you actually put the mitzvah into you. And he explained this in the 5th chapter of Tanya, that when you put on tefillin, or you light candles, so you're doing mitzvah with yourself. So the tefillin are on you. But when you study Torah, the Torah concepts go into you. And it shapes your thinking and it shapes your attitude. So therefore that is the ultimate of the positive mitzvah, where you unite with Hashem in a deeper way, where Hashem is in you and you have a grasp of Hashem, like explained at length in the 5th chapter. But as I said before, this is another time, and the Alter Rebbe doesn't lose an opportunity to emphasize the importance of Torah study. And that's why it's important for everyone to fix times every day to study Torah. And should have Torah Sfarim in his house. You should have Sfarim in his house, in your house. So when you have a spare time, you should study Torah. You should have in your car, the Rebbe would say, in your car you should have achitas. You should have books of Torah, Tanya, Tillim in your car. And in general, people, like mystical, magical blessings. But if you want to go in that direction, to have books in your house brings a blessing in your house. A house has to have a Tanya. We're learning Tanya now. And other Sfarim, Sidurim, Chumashim. So therefore, we came to the conclusion, we have a new understanding of the oath in the Gemara. We resolved the Gemara. And the only thing that's left to understand is a question that would seem obvious is, the emphasis that we are making is that, hey, you're not going to be a tzaddik, you're not going to be Mr. Perfect, so we're going to make you swear, don't be a rasha, don't be evil, don't do evil, etc., don't sin. But now is the other side of the question. Why do we make him swear, be a tzaddik? I mean, up in heaven, they probably know the score. And since most people are not going to reach that anyways, and he even used the words, Ein la'adam mishpat abchira b'zeh kol kach, that we don't even have so much free choice in that, so just let it go by. And nevertheless, every person is said, be a tzaddik. So does that mean that they took their chances up in heaven? And they said, well, you never know. It's like the lottery. So every neshama goes down, there's 10,000 neshamas, make everyone swear, be a tzaddik. Maybe one of them is going to be a tzaddik. 100,000, maybe one of them is going to be a tzaddik. So you make him swear, be a tzaddik, because you never know. Even though really the point of this oath is, don't be a sinner, don't be a rasha. But the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, and I found this very, in a way, inspiring and also very novel, that there is a point for everyone to reach out, to reach for the level of tzaddik. And that's what he's going to spend the rest of the chapter, how we have to work on the tzaddik standard, even if we're not going to reach it, which is an interesting concept, because it's telling us you should reach for a standard higher than yourself, which is a revolutionary concept. Reach for a standard that's higher than yourself. And whereas some would argue, and I'm sure many therapists would say that, what are you reaching for something that's higher than yourself? You're setting yourself up for a downfall. You're saying that we're learning Tanya, which says you're never going to reach being a tzaddik. So if I'm going to be a dreamer, that I want to be a tzaddik, and I'm never going to be that, so I'm going to become depressed. I'm going to feel that I didn't reach my life's goal. I'm going to have a midlife crisis every couple of years because I'm not striving for the goal. And what's interesting, the Alter Rebbe finds a certain balance. That even though the reality is that you're not going to be a tzaddik, nevertheless they do make everybody take a vow to be a tzaddik. And therefore he's going to say, how can we practice tzaddik to fulfill our part of the vow, even if in a true sense we'll never reach there. And this, I think, is very deep psychology, that it is very contemporary, but in Tanya we have it already. And here goes. So even though the main point of the vow for almost all of us is not to be a rasha, just do it, do what's right, even though in the inside you're not going to change. Nevertheless, you should set times to reach the standard of tzaddik. To do what a tzaddik does. You should do what a tzaddik does at times and practice tzaddik attitude or tzaddik feelings. And he's going to elaborate how to do that. So he says, nevertheless, he should set aside times to practice detesting evil and even detesting the physical pleasures, detesting it. But he's going to say, but I don't detest it. I enjoy the physical pleasures, even excessively, even not necessarily kosher pleasures. So he says, advice taken from Gemara. Isha chamas tzoya chuluv. Now the Gemara says, the Gemara makes an interesting observation. So we chase after the opposite gender. So this is human nature. Hashem programmed us to chase after the opposite gender, and we are attracted, and it's for physical pleasure, which is expressed in a certain specific way. And the Gemara is telling us, if you're really logical about it, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Because it's a body of flesh and blood. It's a body that has intestines, and intestines are full of feces. So what are you chasing? You're chasing a sack of bones and feces. What are you chasing? So if you look at it logically, and in parentheses, I was once thinking, Hashem made it interesting, how babies are born and made. It could have been different. It could have been, different. You go to a store, you pick up some ingredients, you cook it and shake it and bake it, or you plant it and up comes a baby. But that's not, he decided to do differently. Could have been anyway. Hashem made the world, he could have made it anyway. But why did he make it this way? So my thing is, well, if a mother wouldn't carry the baby, and the father wouldn't be his flesh and blood, and the baby is a pest and a pain in the neck, they wouldn't let him go. Get out of here. Mistake, next. So Hashem programmed us that it's from our own flesh and blood. So therefore, you go to the extremes, and parents will do anything to protect their child, and because it's their flesh and blood. So he made it that you can't just put together a sermon in a lab, but it has to be your own flesh and blood. With that said, the Gemara says, but if you look at it logically, this chasing after the opposite gender and always focusing on this and this is that, yes, this is the chemistry that Hashem put into us, but so we have that chemistry, so we are that. But what are we chasing actually? We're chasing after, we're losing our privacy, peace and quiet. You're chasing after something. Why? Because he programmed us, because otherwise there wouldn't be another generation. So we understand why he did it. But if you think coldly about it, so you're really chasing after a sack of flesh and bones full of feces. So now, what he's saying is that if you're in a situation where you find yourself attracted to what is not kosher, so it's not a kosher attraction. If it's not a kosher attraction, so if it's a married couple are attracted to each other, so this is part of married life and the mitzvah of married life. So you're doing mitzvahs. But outside of that, it's just an attraction. So then what do you have over here? You have over here, if you think about it deeply, that really, what are you going after? Chamas Milei Yitzoya. So then that could if you meditate upon that could change your attitude towards it, to get cold towards it, and even to detest it. Ukahai Gavna. Similarly, there is a concept in psychology and in popular culture as well, and I think in some of the Eastern cultures, imagery meditation. So that if a person meditates on certain positive images, so they tell people who are in pain, they should think about a sunset, about standing by the beach and listening to the waves. They have calming music to calm them down. People who are in pain, they're recommending this. So what's going on? There is something there. So this is imagery meditation. And there's a lot of literature about it. So on one hand, one can say, this is hocus pocus. But on the other hand, you see that what he is saying, that a person could, through meditation and setting aside time, to actually look with disgust upon some of the pleasures that he pursues. So when he is pursuing pleasures that are inappropriate, if you think about those pleasures coldly and logically, you're going to find that you are really lowering yourself to something that really you should even detest. And it says similarly with foods. So people are into foods. What is food? Food's going to end up being eliminated from the body. What happens with all the foods? So people are pursuing foods for a momentary sensation, but you have people, their whole head is into foods. There are magazines on foods, there are books on foods, and there's this type of food and that type of food. Their whole life is about the sensation and the pleasure of foods. So and people's life goal is they're going to travel here because they're going to real ravioli. They have to go to Italy. They're real ravioli. Over here in the Italian restaurants, fake ravioli. Okay, all this mishigas. So what's ravioli? Ravioli is going to be flushed down the toilet in a couple of hours. So if someone thinks about how a lot of the pursuits that we're after are really, it's really hype, and this is especially so. The Alter Rebbe was talking in Tanya when there was no celebrities and no superficial glamour like we have today, where the glamour of celebrities and the rich and the powerful is exaggerated, and their opinion is asked of them. But all of this is really, it's really a bubble. There's nothing there. And therefore, in the struggle with the one's Yetzer Hara, so he's saying, how does the tzaddik look at this? How is the tzaddik going to look when it comes to his place, an inappropriate image? So let's say someone from the opposite gender is acting inappropriately, he won't be enticed. He'll see the vulgarity of it. He's going to see it as something that's vulgar. They say of a tzaddik, he was like called the malach. So I told him he has to marry. Who are you going to marry? He's a woman, this and that. So, okay, he's got married, and his father was a Rebbe, the Maggid. I heard about him. Also, he was very excited. It's going to be a wedding, and by the wedding, a lot of other tzaddikim are going to come. So he's going to meet a lot of other tzaddikim, a lot of other Rebus, and then they're going to say words of Torah. So he said, wow, this is great. But then after the wedding happened, and he had to go to be with his wife, he couldn't handle it. He says, really? And he vomited. He says, I can't. So it took his father a whole education that this is a mitzvah and this is what Hashem wants, etc., etc. So he was a tzaddik. So a tzaddik, so he has to look at the whole relationship, and in Kabbalah, that's the reality. The reality is in Kabbalah is that the union of a husband and wife down here below reflects the union of godliness and it's up there above. And therefore, great things are happening by a wedding, and great things are happening in the heavens during the marital union. So great things are happening. But if someone is attracted to the physicality of it, it's a detraction from the real holiness of the act. So what are we after, the physicality or the holiness? That's why Adam and Chava, before they ate from the forbidden fruit, they were naked. There was no problem. Because they always saw each other's soul. Because they were totally neshama focused. And when you're neshama focused, you don't even notice the other person's body. We're having a deep conversation with this talking. I look you in the eyes. I just see your eyes. I don't even see your eyes. I see you, and we're having a conversation. There's your position, my position, and there's energy. There's total energy. When you're having a good discussion with someone, there's total energy going on between us. But when Adam and Chava ate from the forbidden fruit, brought them physical sensuality. So then they're all confused. What's going on? So they ate the forbidden fruit that brought them the knowledge of good and evil, which that meant, practically speaking, they became sensually aware of their physicality, and they suddenly had desires, physical desires that they didn't have before, and they started looking at each other not like they looked before. Before they were talking neshama to neshama, and suddenly their eyes are wandering. So a tzaddik's eyes doesn't wander. A tzaddik sees neshama. So therefore, when body is put to the front, for a tzaddik, this is, what's a body? What's a body? A body is a sack of blood and bones and feces. That's what a body is. So why are we chasing bodies? So even though it's tzaddik, but what is it? Because a tzaddik always sees the soul. There were some people who couldn't understand the Rebbe. The Rebbe, and especially the Borough Park, Williamsburg crowd, now it changed over there as well. The Rebbe would have, so if you see the videos, people getting dollars when the Rebbe would come, so you have men getting dollars, and then there would be lines of women getting dollars, and he would look at every person in the eye and give him a bracha. And there's a video floating around. There was a beauty queen of Israel, came to the Rebbe. She was dressed properly, all wrapped up, and she asked the Rebbe she says, I'm the beauty queen, and she says it in Hebrew, that she's the beauty queen of Israel, and she came with a bunch of other girls, and she's asking for a bracha. And the Rebbe says to her, a bracha, and he says, first of all, you should use your beauty for good and holiness. And then she got very serious. She says, give me a bracha for my personal life and my personal success. She got very personal, and you see her attitude was very, very deep and devout and reverent. She had a sense of reverence towards the Rebbe. The Rebbe saw men, women, children. He saw the neshama. That's a tzaddik. A tzaddik sees neshama. He doesn't see body, he sees neshama. And he loves every person because of their neshama. And therefore, when the Rebbe would give out dollars to women, and a couple times a year, they would send all the men out of the big shul in 770, and all the women would come in, And the Rebbe would come in with a few of his attendants, and he would sit down and speak to the woman alone. And then each woman would go up and ask for a blessing. I said, why is the Rebbe, Baruch Rebbe, Rebbes don't speak to women. The Rebbe didn't see women's bodies. He saw the neshama of a woman, how this is malchus, the atzilus, this is the level, the feminine side of godliness, the pchina of malchus, the atzilus. That's what he saw. And that's what that's what he sensed. And if someone puts in front of a tzaddik body and emphasis, he detests it, because if you're putting in front of him something that is a sin, or even not sin, the emphasis of lustfulness and sensuality, the tzaddik is not into that. He detests that, because it's a detraction from what are you? Who are you? In fact, the Rebbe said about women who are not dressed properly, he says what they should show off their character, their intelligence, their kindness. It's a reflection that you don't have much to you else to show. Where's personality? Why are you great? What are you special? Person should be special because of real qualities. So therefore, what are you showing? What is really the most superficial part of humanity? So therefore, he's saying over here, through imagery meditation, he should think about how our sages described bodies, and how we shouldn't be attracted to bodies, and we should detest that. Like the tzaddik, he's giving advice how to work on ourselves to detest it. And therefore all the other physical pleasures, food pleasures, it also ends up in eliminated. The end of all physical pleasures is that it ends up to rot and decay, and nothing is left of it. Even the human body itself. So we're building up the human body, but what's the human body? It's something that's temporary, and ultimately there's no real substance to it. It's just a temporary existence, and in the end it's just, what's the body? It ends up rotting and decaying. So if a person, so a tzaddik really, he doesn't even need these illustrations, because he sees from the beginning neshama. So he doesn't have to psych himself up into this imagery meditation to think of why he should detest all this physicality that is abstraction from holiness. He's totally not tuned into that. But how can a Beinoni, who wants to do tzaddik stuff, how can he do that to fulfill this idea of detesting evil? So he can do that. He should fix times to it. Now, even though it's not really truthfully, and therefore the Beinoni is not really going to detest it, the body. He's not going to detest it like the tzaddik does. But he should have, since he made that vow, he should at times set himself up for that higher standard, even if it's not going to be truthfully so inside and outside. I will soon explain why one should do and act on a higher standard than his real self. We'll soon get to that. But right now he's saying that we made a vow to be a tzaddik. But how am I going to be a tzaddik? So he says, well, do tzaddik stuff. And what is tzaddik stuff? That on the inside he loves godliness and he detests evil. And so here's first of all how to detest evil. and sensuality. And even though you don't truthfully mean it so, because by you, your attraction to body is much stronger, and physical pleasures is much stronger than what you're detesting, and you're just detesting this now for a while, but you should set aside time to do that as well. And the same thing is to have his thrill of godliness. And similarly, he should develop a pleasure and a joy in Hashem, according to his capabilities. Even though he knows that he will never reach that level of really detesting the physical, or the thrill and the pleasure in godliness. He's not going to reach it be'emes lamite, really, truthfully so. Kiyim b'demyonos is just going to be in his mind. In his mind, he's going to have that thrill in Hashem, and in his mind, he's going to detest physical pleasures. But he's not really going to test it. So what's the point of having it in his mind? But he says, why should you do this? First of all, we made a vow to be a tzaddik, so we're not going to be a tzaddik truthfully, completely. At least do what a tzaddik does as much as you can. So let's understand this. I see over here 2 points. Number one, this is a big question about people who are religious. You have secular people making fun of people who are religious. They say, oh, you're supposed to have all these ideals, but look, this religious person, he messed up here. This religious person messed up over there. So is he a hypocrite? So my standard answer is, he's not a hypocrite. You have no ideals, so you can never mess up. You have no ideals. You don't you don't strive for a noble character, etc., etc. So you never mess up. He has ideals, at least in his mind. He has ideals, what he's striving for, what kind of family he wants, what kind of children to bring him up. So, the person has no ideals about right and wrong. There's no right and wrong. Everything is relative, like some of the philosophers say. There's no right and there's no wrong. There's no morals. Everyone makes up what they want. So you'll never mess up because, well, this is life. But someone who is a deeper person, and he has altruism, he has ideals, he has nobility, and the deeper the person is, he's going to have even higher, great, noble ideas. So therefore what? He's not always going to live up to those ideas, but at least he has those ideas. But over here he's saying something even more. There's the doing what's right and wrong that the Torah says in action. And now we're saying living or practicing the standard of the tzaddik, even though you're not in the standing of the tzaddik. So once the Alter Rebbe was asked about this, and he's saying, the Hasidim, you have a lot of Hasidim, they're striving to, they're acting like Hasidim. The word Chassid is already in Gemara, means something very devout and spiritual. He says, someone told the Alter Rebbe, it wasn't a Chassid. He says, yeah, you have all these Hasidim, but they're not really so devout. They have a beard, and they have a shekel, and they daven, and all that. But yeah, who are you kidding? So the Alter Rebbe has quoted a Mishnah, and he gave a certain Hasidic twist to the meaning of this Mishnah. The Mishnah says, concerning begging, and in ancient times, beggars, the poor, were entitled to go to the fields of the farmers, and anything that would fall down when they would cut the wheat, or a peya, which is at the end of the field, so the poor used to go and collect it. And the owner of the field couldn't close up his field. At the time of the harvest, he had to allow the poor to come. And besides that, if the poor would come knocking on his door, he'd have to give them 10% some years. So there was a whole thing about the poor. So the Mishnah says that it's true, the poor are entitled to get a percentage of the wealthiest income, and they're entitled to go on trespass on the field to collect the leftovers, and the owners of the fields are not allowed to, whatever fell on the side, they're not allowed to go back to pick up, or what was forgotten, they're not allowed to go back and pick up. There are laws about that. So the Mishnah says, but don't pretend to be poor. Who was poor? Cripples were poor, the blind were poor. So the Mishnah says, someone who's going to, in order to collect the benefits of the poor, is going to act like he's a cripple or he's blind or has handicap, he'll end up being handicapped. So the Torah is saying, don't make yourself to be a cripple because you're going to end up that way. So the Alter Rebbe said, so here you see, if it comes to evil, if you're going to pretend, in order to do evil, you're going to pretend, so you're going to end up being that way. So if you're going to pretend to be a chassid, if you're going to pretend to do what's right, and you're going to act like you're that, so eventually you're going to end up to be that way as well. And I say that also in the big world out there. Sometimes I think, that the United Nations, this is in parentheses, this doesn't do with Tanya, it's all fake. They're all fakers. They're pretending civility. It's a pretended civility. So they should just take out their guns and daggers and just fight it out. What are they pretending civility? But the reality is, pretended civility is better than no civility. Because it rubs off. And at least there's even a pretended ideal has value. But certainly what the Tanya is saying over here in our own personal development, our own personal Yiddishkeit, even though the Beinoni is in the inside not someone who really detests the vulgar. He's attracted to the vulgar. Even though he doesn't really detest sensuality or exaggerated sensuality. Because this is where he's at. He's a physical, bodily emphasized personality. Nevertheless, he should put himself up and at times act out and think, really this doesn't make sense. And there's a purpose in it, etc., etc., as far as detesting evil, and also having a passion for Hashem and loving Hashem and so on. The other point over here, which I think is important, is that if you set yourself up on a higher standard, you're going to keep at least the basics. Someone should strive to do more. There's a story about a woman. She went into a Jewish bookstore, Judaica store, to buy a siddur. So she goes to the owner of the store, the proprietor, and says, "I want to buy a siddur." So he asks her, "You want to buy a siddur?" She says, "How much does a siddur cost?" So he says, "A siddur, what it cost? You can buy a siddur for $5. You can buy a siddur for $50. He asked me how much it cost. Because of the siddur. So she says, "What's the difference?" So he shows it. Takes a regular siddur, which the kids use to daven, and he says, "That's a regular siddur. It's $5. And what's a $50 siddur? So he takes out a siddur with in the middle of the page, you have a few lines of the text of the prayer, the siddur, but then around is commentary. So you have, in the middle, you have a few lines, then all around it is commentary. So she said, "What's this?" He says, "Well, this is Chasidus. This is the Hasidic commentary on the siddur. There is such a siddur. I have such a siddur at home. It's Chassidim Dach. There's like sometimes one line, sometimes 5 lines, sometimes it's all the text of the prayer. But often it has just 2-3 lines, and the rest is the commentary, the Hasidic, Kabbalistic meaning of the text. So she looks and looks, this is 50, this is 5. So she tells the owner, yeah, I'll take the $50 one. Wrap it up for me, gift wrap. So he asks her, to me it's a better deal, but, she didn't look like someone who's going to learn Chassidus from the Siddur. He says, do you mind to tell me who you're buying it for, that you're buying the Siddur, the $50 Siddur? He says, I'm buying it for my son. How old is he? He's 6. So why are you buying him this Siddur? Well, he started the daven. So you can buy the $5 Siddur for him. Why does he need the $50 Siddur? He says, I have a reason. You see, I saw the Siddur that has commentary. In the middle is the text. A Siddur, when you use it long enough, so it gets chipped on the bottom. It gets rubbed out on the bottom. Years ago there were old Siddurim. Today people don't keep a Siddur so many years. But years ago people kept a Siddur for 50 years. And it gets rubbed out, and it gets crinkled, and it gets erased around the words. So I said, I want my son to always have the text in there. And if whatever gets rubbed out on the sides, that's commentary. But if the whole page is Siddur, so when it gets folded and etched and pieces tear from the edges, he's going to be missing a few words of the Siddur. I don't want him to miss any words of the Siddur. And you find this is very true. If you educate kids and you just tell them the basics, the minimum, as they get older, all of us lose some of the minimum. Because we're tested in situations in life, so we lose the minimum. A little bit gets shipped over here, it'll get shipped over there. We're not the idealists that we once were. So therefore, we should always have extra space. Don't just do the minimum. Do more than the minimum. If you're going to set yourself up on the standard of a tzaddik, even at times, that what I am doing is one thing, but there's really a higher standard. And from time to time I think about that higher standard, even though I can't truthfully reach that level, but this is really the higher standard. Now the Tanya is saying that really we made a vow to keep that higher standard. So even though we can't keep it in a complete way, but at least do what you can do to a minimal way. So therefore there was a point where they made us make a vow and we're answering now the question, well, if you're not going to do that and it's not your life's mission, you're working on a Beinoni. So what's the point of tzaddik? There's a point in being a tzaddik because we all have to strive for a higher standard. And if you have to do the most that you can do. What's the most of tzaddik that I can give Hashem? The most of tzaddik that I can give Hashem is that from time to time think and meditate that some of the pleasures that I'm chasing don't make any sense. And some of the pleasures that I'm chasing I really should detest. Now, am I really going to detest it inside? Probably not, because my chemistry is not on that level. But I made a vow that you should also be thinking on that level and doing what kind of tzaddik could you be at your best? It reminds me of the story of the Baal Shem Tov, that once on Yom Kippur there was passionate davening in the shul, and the Baal Shem Tov wouldn't end the Yom Kippur, he wouldn't sound the shofar. And it's 10 minutes after the time, 15, 20 minutes, an hour after the time. And so they thought something must be going wrong in the heavens, because the Baal Shem Tov is still davening, and he's still shaking and crying, and the whole shul is davening, and there must be something wrong that the Baal Shem Tov is still davening. There must be some decree in the heavens against against the Jewish people, that he has to continue davening past the Yom Kippur, end of Yom Kippur. In the crowd there was a farm boy, a Jewish farm boy. He never learned how to daven. But he was a Yid, so he came to Shul in Yom Kippur. And he got so excited in this energy that was in the Shul. The excitement got into him. That what did he do when he got excited? What does a farm boy know how to do when he's excited? He can do it better than any other farm boy miles away. He can do kukuri-ku. He could imitate the rooster. So he just shouts, kukuri-ku, kukuri-ku, because he was so excited, and he says, what am I going to give Hashem? I can't daven. I don't understand anything. I want to do something. I want to talk to Hashem. I want to give him my davening, my tzaddik. So that's the best he could do. And then the people started saying, what are you doing? Quiet, quiet. And at this point, the Baal Shem Tov is around, who was that? And he goes to him and gives him a hug. And he says to the Chassidim, his kukuriku was the winning prayer that changed everything up in heaven. Because he meant it with all his heart. So we can't give Hashem the tzaddik. But let's do the tzaddik, the best tzaddik we can do, we should give Hashem. Second of all, v'oid, shehergal kol davar shilton v'nasa teva sheni. There is practice, if you get into the habit of something, this becomes a second nature. So you get into the habit of thinking well about the exaggerated pursuit of physical pleasures. And you think about how it really doesn't make sense, this exaggerated pursuit of physical pleasures. This is going to affect us at least a bit to cool it down. And a little bit he will detest some of it. So that applies concerning detesting evil, or even sensuality, exaggerated sensuality. So that's that part of the tzaddik. What about the part of the tzaddik that I feel a passion for the spirit, that I feel a thrill and a joy in Hashem? So I reading and studying, and I have that joy, but is it truth? Is it my real self deep inside? So I'm also, perhaps I'm just imitating. So here he says something from Kabbalah. He says that the Kabbalah says that sometimes if we act in a certain way, beyond, so to say, the norm, and push ourselves beyond the norm, the spirit of another will come into us. So if we're going to act beyond the norm to be a tzaddik, even though that's not our norm, and it's not the level we have, nevertheless, he may merit that the spirit of a tzaddik, a spark of a tzaddik's neshama, will come into him. This is called ibur. Ibur literally means pregnant. So what's pregnancy? It's a person who's carrying another life in them. So the same thing is in Kabbalah. A person has their life, their neshama, and they can be carrying in them the neshama of a tzaddik that is going to come in them, and that neshama is going to help them and inspire them beyond what they really can reach by their own personal standard. If he's going to get accustomed, the Beinoni, who's not really having his thrill and his enjoyment of spirituality is not really in the truthful level of a tzaddik, but if he practices nevertheless, with all that he's doing, it's possible that a spirit will come upon him from above, And this regular person will merit to have the spirit of a certain tzaddik, the roots of from the root of a tzaddik will come into him. And then he will really have and sense, because he has himself that added spirit, to really feel a tzaddik experience, truthfully. Lav Hashem b'simcha hamitis tiksiv simcha tzaddikim b'Hashem. But the verse says that tzaddikim are indeed have joy in Hashem. And at that point, it will really be fulfilled that he swore to be a tzaddik. There's a vow. Everyone makes a vow. They're going to be a tzaddik. So how can he do? He asked, how can he fulfill this vow if that's not even his choice to become a tzaddik? He has to be a Beinoni his whole life. So this is the second point that he said. Even if you're a Beinoni, and at whatever level you are, you should practice a higher standard than what you are. And if that is going to enable you, empower you to fulfill at least what you can of that higher level, be on that higher level as best as you can. And then you never know, it's possible that a spirit that's higher than you will enter you to really lift you up on that higher level. So have a good night, Shmuel.
Thank you.